This is the Smallmouth Crush Podcast Season 2. If you're a hardcore angler, you've come to the right place. This podcast that will interview some of the top local and regional anglers in North America. Anglers who consistently finish near the top in both largemouth and smallmouth bass fishing tournaments. Travis and his guest will discuss techniques and strategies used to help these anglers stay so consistent and help you become a better angler and gain an edge on your body of water. And now, here's your host of the Smallmouth Crush Podcast, Travis Manson.
Hello, welcome to the Smallmouth Crush Podcast. My name is Travis Manson. Here we are, another week talking with some of the top local and regional anglers across the country. And again, the information we've been getting from season 2 has been great. It's been a lot of great information with a lot of anglers all over the country doing their thing, teaching us how to become a better angler ourselves. And I'm really excited for this week's guest. But before we go there, you guys know the drill. We got to talk about the Reel Shot. The Reel Shot's been the sponsor of the podcast. And it's where I buy all my tackle when it comes to bass, all my bass fishing needs, especially when you got that code SmallmouthCrush 15% off your first order over at thereelshot.com. They got all the different baits you need. Same day shipping, fast delivery. What more do you want? Check it out, thereelshot.com, SmallmouthCrush 15. Let's bring Ed. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Travis. How about you?
Good. I'm excited to have you on the show because I know we fish a lot of the same bodies of water, and you've had quite a bit of success when it comes to the tournament level. And this season's theme on the podcast is really talking about what it takes to become an efficient tournament angler like yourself. If you could maybe take a moment to introduce yourself, let some of the viewers and listeners know a little bit more about Ed.
Okay. Well, I'm Ed Casey. Take residence up in Whiteford, Maryland. I grew up here on the Chesapeake Bay. Fished Chesapeake Bay pretty much all my life as a child, and as I grew older. My plans fishing this year would probably be fishing the BASS Open. The first 3, trying to make my dream come true with the maybe getting into the Bassmasters Classic one day.
Yeah.
Other than that, fishing a few major league fishing. Not sure if we're going to fish the Toyota Series this year, but we'll be fishing some of the BFLs.
Yeah, you do fish a lot of local tournaments that we fish out of the Chesapeake, and then you do a lot of traveling regionally, anyways, fishing the Opens and some of the Toyota Series in the past. How long have you been in the tournament game?
I'll be honest with you, Travis. I don't want to give my age away, but I'm old. But I started tournament fishing when I was 16 years old.
Whoa.
I'll tell you
Wow.
my age. I'm 64 years old.
A long time.
I don't feel like it, but that's what I am, and it's only a number.
Right. Exactly. What are some of your favorite bodies of water to tournament fish on?
Few of them, actually. I love Champlain most of my life. I've had a lot of success in my early days on Champlain, but then I'd probably say 1,000 Islands and then Lake Oneida. I love them northern New York lakes. I lived up there for a while. I relocated for a job I had, and didn't get to fish when I was up there working, but afterwards, and now my flexibility lets me fish a little more. I get to go up there. A lot of fun. I love the areas.
As far as growing up near the Chesapeake Bay and fishing there, is that where you really started tournament fishing, or was it in other bodies of water?
Well, it was my first tournament that I'd ever fished in my life. I fished little club tournaments. We fished like the Nanticoke, Chop Tank, Wycomico River. But my first real getting a taste for the tournaments was probably on the Potomac. Actually, I'd never been in a real bass boat before, and I was 16 years old. I got paired up with a gentleman who some people may know. He's an old-time guy now, like me, but Bob Dobart. And he had a boat that probably ran 70 or 80 mile an hour, which I'd never been that fast in my life in a boat. Mm-hmm. So I actually learned that I wasn't as good as I thought I was when I fished with those guys.
Did you start out as, back in the day, did they have like a co-angler boater type events, or how was it? Was it some team tournaments, or?
No, it was a co-angler draw. I fished as a co-angler because I wasn't fortunate enough to have a boat at that point in time in my life, and just fish what I could. I just loved the sport, and I loved to compete. And once I learned that I wasn't as good as I thought I was, because there's a lot of good fishermen out there, I kept moving on up and trying and practicing and going out as co-anglers, learning the bodies of water and going from there.
When was your first memorable win, or your first win that you can recall?
Probably was on Lake Champlain, fished bass in America back in the day, and Redman, which some people may remember before it came FLW and the rest of them. But that would probably be my first win, a memorable win. We were coming out of Ticonderoga, but we didn't take the weights that it takes now. But with electronic equipment today, it's a whole new ball game. We were fishing with flashers, and we never knew if, live scope or 360 or anything at that point. You seen a little flasher screen, you better knew what it meant.
So back then, when you had your first win on Champlain out of Ty, was it still pretty much largemouth down in that area, or was there some smallmouth mixed in at the time?
Yeah, there was probably more largemouth, but when I won, I did have a mixed bag. We were catching a few smallmouth, but nothing like the size that we're getting today.
What's your favorite species to target on Lake Champlain?
Oh, I love the smallmouth fishing now, without a doubt. I cried when, well, I didn't really physically cry, but I was a little upset when they started leaving Tide and we started coming out of Plattsburgh. I'm like, oh, I got to learn something new techniques, drop shot. And, I never really knew it. I never fished that way before in my life, and then I had to learn all that. So
back in the day, I mean, you probably remember not having side image even.
Oh yeah, I remember all that. I remember the first time I seen it side imaging, I was like, it just amazed. It blew me away. And, like I said, when I first started fishing, we have nothing but flashers. That was pretty much it. And today I still wished I could get a flasher.
Really?
Because especially at high speeds. Every time I order a boat, I try to order a flasher because at high speeds, that definitely gives you a lot truer reading than, the graphs that we have today.
I understand.
Just my
Sure.
personal opinion.
Okay. As far as techniques go on Champlain, what are some of your favorite ways to catch those smallmouth?
Well, it's changed. When I started, when I was young, I fished a lot of finesse, small 4-inch worms, 6-inch worms. And now that's kind of all went away. And pretty much now everything is drop shot, and drop shot. I do a lot of jig fishing. It's probably one of my power baits I go to.
Mm-hmm.
I got different types of jigs I use. It depends on what situation I'm in. If I'm in grass or, if I'm fishing wood, flipping woods or docks or whatever.
So having a jig in your hand is sometimes, I guess, a confidence bait.
Yeah, I put that in my hand anywhere. I know. I don't know if it would be a football head jig, a swim jig, just depending on what time of the year.
Early in the season, what are some typical ways and types of jigs that you're going to be using that time of year?
Well, early in the year, I'm probably going to start off with the football head jig for sure, because we don't have a lot of grass at that point in time early. And I'll pretty much just go with a football jig and, bouncing off the bottom, looking for wood structures or rocks, sandbars, whatever, and then just pretty much bouncing the jig around. When I first started fishing, the best jig I ever had in my hand, I had most of my success on, believe it or not, was the Johnny Morrison Bass Pro Shop 99-cent jig. I can remember that far back. And I used to just I'd order 50 at a time. 90% of them were black and blue. That's pretty much all I fish. But, now things are changed. I still look for those jigs though. When I'm at the Bass Pro Shop, if I find something that kind of reminds me of the old days, I definitely put them in my cart.
What type of jig trailers are you using?
I use the Kitech, and I also use Kitech jigs. Just depends on the time of the year. When I go to my swim jigs, be perfectly honest with you, and they don't sponsor me or anything like that, but I try to get my hands on Dave's jigs, swim jigs. I learned the hard way when I've had guys beat me out of the back of my boat, and pretty much that's what they're throwing, and I learned to buy them real quick.
That's interesting. You don't hear a whole lot about that because I think everybody's trying to keep it a secret. They do make some great jigs. I was introduced to them a number of years ago and found out that, fishing that swim jig on tidal water is definitely deadly. And I know you probably do the same on tidal, but are you using that as well up north?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, if I'm in the grass, which I probably shouldn't let all my secrets out, but yeah, that's some of my number one baits to go to, and I've got a Dave's jig swimming. If I'm fishing grass, that's what I'm going to have on. Sometimes they want a little bit faster retrieve. Sometimes they want that slow retrieve. when I come through heavy grass, once it comes through that grass, of course, you're going to pause it, and that's where a lot of your 99% of your bites come.
How about jig trailers when it comes to a swim jig?
I use mostly Kitech and Rage Crawl,
Okay. Like the Kitech actual swim bait itself?
Yep, the swim bait, yep.
So using the swim jig up north, swimming it through grass, working it through the structure, rod of choice, and also line. I'm curious, are you more of a braid or are you straight floral, or what's your setup when it comes to jig
I go
fishing?
straight floral. I use 15-pound fluorocarbon. Pretty much that's it, I've tried it on braid. I know a lot of guys like, oh, go braid, go braid. But I'll be honest with you, I just like the fluorocarbon.
I hate using the term beat the bank, but do you like to get up shallow with the jig as well?
Yes, I do. I usually start shallow, especially in pre-fish and stuff like that. I'll start shallow and work my way out. Because, the fish are there somewhere. You just have to locate them, find them. And with electronics, it's a little bit more easier today than what it was in the past. But I start shallow, then I work my way deep. But as I get out to deeper water, I definitely slow my retrieve down. I want to make sure I'm filling that structure on the bottom every second, and that jig, if it has a twitch or something taps it, you're going to feel it, especially on the fluorocarbon.
You mentioned your love for Champlain, Oneida, Thousand Islands. Is there a big difference in the way you fish all three of those lakes?
Yeah, they're somewhat similar, but I pretty much stay when it comes to Thousand Islands. I'm the river guy. I have went out to the lake. Unfortunately, I haven't had success like you have out there on the lake, but I just haven't put enough time out there. But they do fish similar, but there's a little bit here and there, like Oneida. Definitely are different on Oneida compared to Champlain or Thousand Islands. And I have had a little bit of luck there. Didn't prove it last year on the BASS Open, but that was on me because I made some bad decisions.
So what happened in that event? Were you on fish?
I found fish, and I'll be honest with you, like once you win a tournament, as well as people want to, if they see you, they're going to fish your area. So right. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't even fish my key areas when I go up there and pre-fish because I know they've always got fish there. I've won more money on a couple spots than on that lake than anywhere I've ever been, and I don't touch them until the day of the tournament, and then that's where I'm at.
It's an interesting comment you made, the way you approach pre-fishing for a tournament. You have a lot of history. You've been doing this a long time. You fish a lot of tournaments. So you really stay off of your stuff, I guess, until maybe, do you sneak in there at all? Or do you just,
every once in a while, I'm out early and I'm out late. I'm usually in the water before the break of day if I can get in the ramp. If not, I'll find another ramp that I can get in. And if I don't see a lot of anglers and I'm fairly close to the area, I will hit that area, or late at night, I will go there. I try to get up early with my schedule and with a wife that understands my passion for the sport. She knows I got to practice. That's the whole key in success is tournament fishing. If you're not on the water, you're not going to do well. It's just that simple. And if I get up there early enough, there's not a lot of anglers. I do hit those spots a little bit. Very, very little though, very little. If I only need to catch one fish, I don't stay there. Like a lot of guys, I tell a lot of people, man, I've had terrible practice. But when I say it, it's because I'm fishing stuff that I don't know and I've never fished. I'm just looking for new areas. And I keep telling myself, because I will burn myself out sometimes thinking I'm not going to be successful in this tournament because of the practice I had. I was fortunate enough, last year I won the Chesapeake. And the reason why I did, and it wasn't because I'm a better fisherman than anyone else, I just located the fish. I had a crappy tournament on the James River. It was the BASS Open. I was disgusted with myself because I know that I could perform better than that. And I told my wife, I came back home, and I'm getting up there in age, so I needed a day or two to recuperate after that tournament because I was down there probably fishing for about 10 days straight. So I came back, I chilled out, came back home on a Sunday. I told her, I said, I love you and everything, but you're not going to see me for about the next week or two. I said, because I can't have this happen again. And I pulled up some old charts that I had from years ago on the bay. I loaded them into the Lowrance, and I said, I'm going to hit them. And no one was on the water. I went out there. It was my first day of practicing on that body of water. Now, I don't pound it either. I don't fish a lot of tournaments on Chesapeake. I went to the spot. I banged the first fish I go to. I get one about 6.5 pounds.
Is this an area you fished in the past?
That's the area I fished in the past, way before a lot of these guys even knew about fishing, or didn't have any experience on the bay. It was way before these big bags came out. And the second fish I catch is a 5-pounder. So I'm like, that's it. I'm not touching it no more. I'm not practicing it. I'm not even going to go buy it because as well as I know in this sport, if they see a bent rod, they're going to be in there on you. There's not a whole lot of sportsmanship like in the past. In the past, I fished the BASS in 92 and 93. And I competed against Clun, Nixon, all them guys were there. I didn't know crapola. I was this younger guy that thought I knew how to fish, but I didn't. And that's when the Carolina rig was just first coming out. Everybody was saying, oh, they're getting them on Carolina rigs. Well, I tried it. I didn't know how to fish it. I didn't do well. But, it was the sportsmanship that was there, what I seen there. I watched Ricky Clun. We fished at a tournament on Kentucky Lake. And now I'm probably getting off your subjects, but.
No, I like it. I like it.
We were on Kentucky Lake, and the fish, it was fall. The fish were moving in, they're chasing shad. So, your experience, my experience, everybody says, well, they're going to be coming in today. They're going to be on the secondary points in time of the year, which I knew. So I started pounding secondary points, found good schools of fish. It was loaded. It was like, I describe it as, it looks like you're popping popcorn. When they're chasing those shad, and it's just all over, just poof, 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 just like popcorn in a pot. So in the tournament on day one, I was fishing my secondary point. I looked over, and who's beside me is Ricky Clun. I'm like, wow, that's Ricky Clun. He's my idol. So I'm watching him, and I had 5 fish, but I didn't have nothing major. I just had a decent bag. Well, Ricky Clun comes in that day. He's fished only this spot, and I've fished it since then. I haven't had success like him, but he pulled in 30-some pounds of smallmouth that day. Wow. And I was like, wow. So I talked to Ricky that evening, and they canceled our tournament the second day because we had some bad weather coming in. So they let us go on the third day, and I was telling Ricky, I said, hey, I said, I'm fishing right by you. He said, yeah, I seen you over there. And I was joking with him. I'm like, well, I told him, I said, Ricky, I could kind of earlier launching you. I could go over and catch a few of your fish, before you get there.
All right.
And he looked at me, and I said, well, Ricky, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it to you. I'm not going to do it to any other competitor. I don't do that. I said, I'll tell you what I would do. I will go over there and block that area for you if I seen someone coming in it and not fishing. But that's just me. That's the way I am.
Sure.
I think it's sportsmanship. And Ricky ended up winning that tournament. It was either late 92, I think it was. It had to be late 92.
Could you see each other during the day?
Yeah.
Wow.
He probably only was about at most probably 100 yards from me.
What the heck was he doing that you couldn't figure out? That's what I want to know.
Well, I can figure it out. I watched him because he's like an artist at work. And he was fishing between the main river point and the secondary points. He was found a creek channel come out. And at that point in time, everybody was throwing a weighted jerkbait. Well, you couldn't buy weighted jerkbait. So it was back in the time to where you had to pretty much wrap lead or put the lead stickers on the side of the bait. And he basically, he was casting out. I'd watch him do his countdown. He'd get down to the level where he knew he had to be in, where the fish were. And bam, 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 he'd start, jerking that jerk bait. Next thing I knew, I'm like, I was just floored just to watch him. It was an honor just to watch him.
Sure. Wow.
And
that's awesome.
He came out, the second day he came out, when they did let us go on the third day, he ended up with another 30-some pounds out of the same spot. And I'm like, wow, I'm that close to the fish, but I couldn't find him, I just found largemouth. He's got smallmouth. All of them are smallmouth. I'm like, I didn't even know they had smallmouth like that,
right,
in 92 on that lake, but he found them.
Man, I bet you have a bunch of stories like that, all these events that you fished. What's probably your most memorable win that you had fishing, throughout your life?
I've come in, in the Costas, I had 3 top 10 finishes. That was highlight for me. I was happy that I accomplished that. my wins probably, I mean, just when my family's around, they're all memorable. I mean, it's just all about people that you can share the moment with, and that's probably my most favorable when my family's around and when I have that win. So if it be Champlain, I mean, Champlain probably was most memorable. That was always my favorite lake before I started fishing at Thousand Islands and Oneida, because Oneida came in late in the ball game, for me.
As far as tournament fishing there.
As far as tournament fishing, yeah.
Do you have any other favorite bodies of water that you like to fish?
Well, I haven't been to them in a long, long time, but back in the early 90s, Sam Rayburn was probably one of my favorite. But I love that body of water. I caught some humongous fish, probably some of the biggest fish I've ever caught. I mean, my wife probably had one on, and she thought she was hung. She had one about 9 pounds. Unfortunately, it got off, and we were at Sam Rayburn. But yeah, that's a nice place, and I've been around, like you said, a lot. But I love these northern lakes. I can't get away from them. I love the smallmouth.
What's your goals moving forward? You mentioned you want to fish the opens and possibly you'd love to fish the classic. You'd love to get a win and be able to do that. But if you actually qualified for the elites, is that something you would do?
I would have to look at, if I qualified for them, I probably would like to do it. Now, if I can or not, I have a construction company, environmental company. So it's a little tough to get away. I mean, I can make it work. And I probably would give it some consideration. My wife would tell me, yeah, you're definitely going to fish it.
Really?
But yeah. My goal right now is I want to win one of these next 3. And it's kind of set up. I think this is my best opportunity this year. I mean, we start off in the James. Then we're going to Oneida. And then we're here at the home water. We're in Chesapeake Bay, which I don't know how well I'll do on the James. I love that down there. But it's always been tough on me. I've always had great practices. I don't know if I'm making the wrong decisions. I don't know what it is. I just can't put it together on the James, but I will be giving it 110% when we go down there. I plan to go down there as soon as got a new boat ordered. As soon as it comes in, it'll get broke in and I'll be heading to the James.
Right.
And spend as much time as I can. And then I go to Oneida after that. And my goal is to make it. I like to fish the classic. That would be a dream come true.
Right. What, out of all 3, which one are you looking forward to the most?
My best odds to win is probably Lake Oneida.
Oneida, yeah.
And I mean, I got a couple top 10s there. I've won a tournament there in the BFL, and I've always usually placed in the money until last year. And I made some poor decisions, real poor decision on my part. I knew where the fish were. I mean, I knew where all these guys were fishing. I mean, they were fishing. I got a friend that lives on the lake there, and I stay with him when I go up to pre-fish at his house. And they were fishing outside of his house. I mean, I could see him in the evening. I mean, I'm seeing Ike and Ellie there, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and he's hitting his hot spots too because no one's around. And I mean, they're all there. I mean, we were fishing hard. I knew the fish were there. I don't want to. It's all comes down to me, but I think there's 3 or 4 women that fish as a co-anglers on the BASS Opens. Well, I drawed one on the first day. Great young lady. She didn't have a lot of experience. I tried to help her. She did catch some bass. She got to weigh them in. She was so excited, And so I kind of catered around that a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know. She's a good-looking girl. She's a pretty girl on the boat,
Right.
But and then I drawed second day. I drawed another lady, and I knew I had to go to the far end of the lake, and they were calling for rough weather. And she had mentioned to me that she'd had a bad back, which I can sympathize with that because I've got a bad back myself. So I didn't make the long run, what I should have done. And that's on me because I should have told her we're going to make the run, and I didn't. And about middle of the day, I'm like, okay, I got to make the run because I ain't got nothing. So I run halfway down the lake. By then we had good 4-footers on there. You know what it's like, beating and banging. And I stopped to fish a couple, I call them offshore, just places offshore there that I fish. And I stopped there, and the weather was just so rough. And I was like, I couldn't catch any fish. We caught a couple shorts. I'm like, I'm done. I got to go back up and get in some quiet water.
So there's a lot of different scenarios. Obviously, being a nice guy and catering your co-anglers may have hurted you a little bit. I mean, Listen, I remember that tournament you're talking about. I made the run to the opposite end of the lake, and it was not fun. So
I know.
it was definitely a struggle. So fishing all these events, throughout your career doing this, but what are some areas that you wish you could improve upon as an angler?
Probably fishing crankbaits would probably be my weakest, and I think it's just me because I don't know. I've gotten so used to catching fish on baits that I can just pretty much horse them in. And when it comes to slowing down, letting the fish do what it's got to do, I don't know if my adrenaline or just being excited or what's wrong, but probably deep water crankbaits. I mean, I own
Deep
tons of them.
cranking.
Trust me. I got a
Yeah,
I got a truck full. Maybe I should
right.
say that. And I just I cringe every time I have to put them on to catch fish because, and I think it's me. I just think I force them in. I lose a lot of them. That's probably the bait that makes me cringe.
We mentioned a little bit of as far as your love of jig fishing and utilizing the jig. I always ask everybody on the show if they had one bait of choice to use for the rest of the season, what would that bait be?
So
I'm guessing you're going to be throwing that
you're,
black and blue jig.
you're
Uh,
100% correct.
It,
Different time. I mean, different body styles of jigs, but it would be a jig. Yeah.
it would be a jig. What are some other techniques that you feel really confident with when it gets down to it?
Well, I love the drop shot. You know, it took me a while to learn that. Well, it's all about learning, you know, and how to fish it properly and stuff. And I talk to like guys like you and guys that I know that's been doing it probably a lot longer than me. And I watch people and I try to learn, you know, a lot from you guys and other guys, even co-anglers in a boat, because some of them are phenomenal fishermen. They may not just have the, you know, the finances or whatever to own a boat, but a lot of them could be boaters and be top-notch co-anglers. I mean, top-notch boaters.
Right.
And I've learned a lot of techniques, and I feel pretty confident now with my understanding of a drop shot, where I can catch them on drop shot pretty good. And I mean, like I said, when it comes to Thousand Islands, I'm the river guy. So, I mean, I feel comfortable. I can go out. I should be able to catch 20 pounds of fish. And most of that's on drop shot up there.
How are you breaking that body of water down? Do you hit a lot of the same stuff? What do you look for? Because the St. Lawrence River, everyone's got a different take to it. You know, it's massive. You can go shallow, you can go deep. It sounds like you're going to have a drop shot in your hand quite a bit. Are you trying to target those deeper fish, or are you going
Yeah,
shallow as well?
I target the deeper fish when it comes to that. You know, I mean, I do get up shallow. I mean, if they're up there feeding, I mean, you put that spinner bait in your hand and, you know, you can go to town on them. But you know as well as I know, smallmouth are here today and gone tomorrow. And when we fished the BASS Open up there, I was like, oh man, I thought I had them figured out.
Did
And
you?
well, I thought I had. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I found some really super good fish, and a friend of yours put me on them. He told me about the spot, Matt Stasiak, which I
Oh
know he's
yeah,
been on your show a few times. And
sure. Yep.
I probably thanked him by text, but I really never called him up and thanked him. But he gave me one spot, and I looked at the spot, and I'm like, well, it's got to be a little more than that, you know. So I expanded his area quite a bit, and I was finding I had some good 5s and 6s, and I thought I was going to be somewhat good in that tournament, but it didn't turn out that way.
So you had a good practice. You were excited.
Yep. I
Did
had
you?
a real good practice, one of the best, and that I had. And then I've got local stuff that I fish all the time. And like I say, I stay off of it. I don't practice it. I know the fish are there. They're every year. They're there.
So I like your concept, staying off of your stuff when you're practicing for an event. But a lot of times, a lot of guys don't have the experience, the years, and the success in the past to have that confidence. What are some advice would you give to an angler that's possibly looking at fishing some of these lakes for the first time, or they're not real familiar with it? What would you do to try to have a successful event?
Well, up there, I mean, I've learned it's all about current up there on 1,000 Islands. Not so much current like on Oneida because there's not a whole lot of current. Maybe some on the north. Most of the current on Oneida is on the north shore. Of course, most people know that. They see it coming out of the rivers. It's on all the maps, topographical maps. But for the 1,000 Islands, I broke it down. If I didn't know that body of water, I would just hit as many spots as I could. I'd probably be 10 to 30 foot of water. I know it's a big range, but I mean, that's where you're going to find them, you know, and watch those graphs and hit as many spots as you can if you're up there just pre-fishing, you know, and you don't know the body of water. And then I don't have your experience on the lake, I wish I did, because I've tried to go out there on that lake. I went out there, gotten seasick a few times.
Really?
But,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if I'm way offshore and I don't see, and if I'm not catching fish, I start feeling a little rough, But I did the same way up on Erie when we fished out of Buffalo, and just learning new spots and going way out there and can't see land. It's I don't know what it is. I got a little sick. I've only been sick a couple times, but that's how I've done it. But I wished I knew the lakes a little better, especially out there. I don't want to say I'm scared of it. I'm not scared of it, but I just don't know it. I can't find what I need to find out there. One day I will.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
will keep looking.
I think you got the skills to be able to do it. It's really, for me, I think it's applying some of the same techniques that you use in the river, but trying to figure it out in the lake. And just like you mentioned earlier in this episode, those smallmouth tend to roam. And so you could be in the right area and they're just not there that day. So that's
Correct.
just like, think about tidal water, being on the Chesapeake Bay, yourself, you could be in the best spot at the wrong timing, right? Bad tide.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And you'll never know. You'll write, a lot of people will write that off and move on to the next. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Chesapeake being your home body of water, being right there. And you have this big event coming up at probably, I mean, in my opinion, one of the worst times to fish the bay. I could be wrong. You might have a different take on that. That's going to be a tough event.
Yes, it is. It's going to be tough. You're not going to be seeing these 25, 30-pound bags come in that time of the year, I don't think. I'm just going to go back to, for me, my take on that, what I'm going to be fishing a lot of areas that I grew up in. I mean, I will be hitting.
It's going to be an interesting place for the viewers and listeners that are not familiar with the Chesapeake. I feel it's more of a spot-oriented body of water than really a pattern type of body of water, meaning there's a lot of boats in certain areas that hold fish. And because of that, it's just a ton of pressure. So doing something a little different, trying to get an edge on the competition and what it's all about.
Yeah, you got to definitely find something, get away from all them boats. I mean, we're all battling after the same fish. I mean, yeah, somebody's going to get them, but if it's more than a one-day tournament and everybody keeps beating that water up, as well as I know that it's going to be tough to get good stringers for 3 days in a row. And I always look, I'll be honest with you, when I won the BFL, which kind of surprised me, like I said, I pulled up some old graphs. I couldn't believe that someone else didn't find a spot. And I was like, I think I was boat 110.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, wow, 109 people out in front of me. I know someone's going to be on this spot. So I'm riding. And then I'm like, wow, I'm getting closer. I don't see any boats. And I'm like, wow, this can't be true. Right. So I pull up. I'm the only boat within eyesight of this spot. I looked at my co-angler. I said, today's our day. And we were fishing, and I started with moving baits. I was throwing rattle traps and just tipping the grass. They were eating that very well. First thing in the morning, I probably end up 18, 20 pounds in the well, probably within an hour. Then it slowed down. And then I told my co-angler, I said, well, the tide's stopping. I said, it's going to be dead. So I said, if you want to eat a sandwich or something, it'll be time to do it now. I said, but you need to have a rod in your hand. It just so happened that 1:15 was the key time. I said, they're going to start eating again. And I'd switched baits. He didn't have what I was throwing. I gave him one. I always try to get my co-anglers to do the best they could. And I had a good sack in. I wanted him to get a good sack. He didn't want to change. Finally talked him into changing, but by the time I talked him into changing, they had pretty much gotten off of that moving bait. And then I went to my swim jig, and they just eating it up. And then a couple boats came by and see me hook up about 1:30. I had 2 boats in on me, then another boat. And I said, you know what, I'm done. I knew I had 21 pounds. So I gave it to them and I left, and I don't know how they did, but I just wanted to get off before everybody else started seeing it, beating the crap out of it.
So great information, when you're preparing for an event, going out, doing what you do, that's awesome that you're able to, you're sneaky, man. I didn't know you're that sneaky. Late at night, early mornings, that's when you hit the juice. So if I see you during the day, I'm not even going to pay any attention. I'll be like, oh, he's just out there wasting time, having fun.
I do remember one tournament I was fishing. I was on one of my key spots, and you went by me, but I don't think you recognized me.
Really?
So I didn't holler at you. You were moving quick, as you usually do. I know you're you fish fast, and we were on Oneida. I was on one of my better spots when you went right by me.
Interesting. Well, I got to pay better
You
attention.
you were in tight. I'll put it to you this way: you were in tight, and I was a little offshore.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
Man, that could have been anywhere.
yes, it could have been anywhere.
You're
Exactly.
not
That's why I
giving me
said
anything
that.
to go on. That sucks. Anyways, we already asked you what your favorite bait is as far as one you could use. We talked about the jig. Great stuff. I got to ask you the other question that we always ask every guest. I want to know what your personal best largemouth and smallmouth is and a little story behind it.
Yeah, well, my best largemouth is probably 8.5 pounds. I haven't got nothing bigger than that. I haven't been to Florida, done any fishing. I was on Sam Rayburn, but I should have got some big. I had big fish in practice, but never weighed them or anything back then. And so it's kind of like looking at them and guessing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have an 8.5 on Chesapeake Bay. It was probably my
On the
longest
bay.
fish on the bay. I caught that on the jig. It was probably fall of the year, and I actually caught it off some scattered rock. My smallmouth was probably my largest. I weighed in was in the Costa series up there on 1,000 Islands, and I had one a little over 6.5 pounds, and that was probably my best. And I caught that, of course, on the drop shot.
Drop shot. What's your bait of choice when you drop shot? Do you have a variety of different ones, or do you try to stick to a handful?
I go different stuff, but I do use Guy Joe baits a lot.
Yeah.
Crosstail shads. I got a couple of secret baits that a friend of mine used to be in the business, and no one manufactures them, and he's the only one that gets them. And that I did a lot of damage up there when I finished in the top 10 with that bait on the river. So I've got them. I got a few, and me and Paul Kimball share them a little bit, and we've done pretty well. Paul had 23 pounds of something out of the river off of that bait, and I've come in with 20. Him and I was fishing some of the same area because, like, we are friends and everything. We share a little bit of information, and so I knew he had a good chance of winning, and I wanted him to win. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to touch the stuff. It's all yours. I said, you got it. I said, but I'm only giving it to you till 11 o'clock. After 11 o'clock, I'm coming over to see you. So he didn't do well. I did come back in that day and end up beating him out because he had a bad day. On the second day, he just made some bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all caught off of that bait. That's one of my secret baits right there. So that's about my best, and that's about it.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I want to know if anyone wants to follow you on social media. How can they keep up with what you got going? These love to follow your opens this coming season and see if you can get the job done this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping I get the job done. Well, really, I don't have anything I put out there. I'm an older guy, so I don't know all this high-tech stuff that you do, and I appreciate the opportunity being on your show. And the only thing I do is I don't have an Instagram. My son told me I was a little too old for that, but that's my younger son. But I only have Facebook, and I very rarely get on it that much. I look at it in the mornings and stuff like that before I go to work, or in the evenings.
Sure.
And other than that, I guess I need to do a little bit. Maybe I need to get some tips from you. Vix has helped me quite a bit, and I'm not saying it because they do help me a little bit. I've been preaching to them before they even helped me. I bought my first boat from them. This will make my fourth boat I ordered from Vix out of Kent, Ohio, Vix Sports Center. He sells skeeters, he sells Rangers. I've only had a Ranger. I bought my first Ranger in 1987.
Whoa!
I still have that boat. I gave it to my older son, and it still looks as good. Well, let me put it this way: when I gave it to him, it looked as good as it was when I bought it.
Sure, right.
It looks like a brand new boat. But Vix is they've been outstanding, man. And it's not only just for me. I mean, I see what they do for bass fishermen. You know, they're big in the walleye. I mean, if you got a tournament coming up and you need service done, I mean, you're going to go to the front of the line. And I mean, I went up there on their days off. They shut down on Wednesday and Sundays. They're closed. And I said, hey, I'm driving up, which takes me about 5.5 hours from my house. And he'll have a mechanic come in and do whatever I need done. And it, like I say, it's just not for me. It's for anyone, everyone. And then I got to give a shout out to being on the Mercury Pro Staff teams really helped me a lot. And I got Sims, you know, and then I got, of course, my company, C&W Construction Company, that helps me do what I can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's about it. But I'm always open for more sponsors, Travis.
There you go. We'll send them your way, man. Seriously, I do appreciate it. I consider you, I respect you a lot as a fisherman. I know a lot of us watching, especially here in this area, you're always You're always a threat on these bodies of water, so we certainly appreciate you coming on the podcast this week.
Well, thank you for having me, and hope we all have a good season this year.
Absolutely. And as always, guys, until next time, we'll see you on the water.
Thanks so much for listening today. Make sure that you're subscribed to the show and follow us on Instagram at SmallmouthCrush. Also, the YouTube channel, SmallmouthCrush. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating and comment with a review below. And as always, until next time, we'll see you on the water.